jam-packed hour today. Thank you, Tree. For those of you who don't know me, I am a ninja. I do Ninja Warrior. So I go to the ninja gym, I do all the climbing, all the crazy stuff. And I got into it in 2019. Now, prior to 2019, I had been athletic my whole life. So I had always played sports. I had gone to the gym, and I thought I knew what I was doing, right? I was pretty good. I was in shape. I was doing all right. And then I found the ninja gym. And when I went to the ninja gym, this wasn't your typical gym where you just kind of show up and, you pick up your own weights and you go do whatever. They were classes, group personal training classes where there's an instructor and they write the workouts. And very quickly, within a month, I realized I had no idea what I was doing when I was trying to work out by myself. And the value I got from having a coach there, having someone making those little tweaks in the way that I was doing things, gave me huge results. For about a year prior to starting at the Ninja Gym, I had said, I want to do a pull-up. I want to be able to do a pull-up, and couldn't do a pull-up. But after 1 month at the Ninja Gym with a trainer, I was able to do a pull-up. So there's such value in having a coach and having someone who knows what they're doing, having that person help and guide you. You can achieve far more than you think you can. So thank you all for being here today. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. My guess is thumbs up. Do you see those slides? That work, Tree? Thank you. Awesome. So we know that this is true of going to the gym, right? Fitness and having a coach, it's an important thing, but it's also true in our organizations. So one thing that they like to say is right up here on the screen, right? Coaching is the universal language of change and learning. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Liz Haberberger. I work here at Dale Carnegie in Missouri. I'm based out of St. Louis, but we have responsibility for pretty much the entire state. When I shared my screen, it made your screen look a little funky. If you want to go back to that nice normal view, go ahead and just click anywhere on the screen and hit escape. That's going to take you back to that nice normal view. Now, we do also have one other person here on this call. So if you have any issues today that you need addressed, please reach out to Tree Sam. He's going to be helping us on the back end. Tree, you want to just pop in and say hello real quickly?
Yes, absolutely. Here to make sure everybody has a great experience. Let me know if you have any audio issue. Great to see everybody here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tree. So let's see where we're going today. Like I said, we've got a jam-packed hour in terms of coaching. You have a mission today over lunch. Maybe you're sitting there eating your lunch, and here is your mission. I can't tell you where you're going to find yourself wanting to apply these concepts or wanting to use some concepts that we're talking about today, but your mission is to find some differences. Okay, see if you can spot some differences in two different types of coaching that we're going to look at. You've got to find an opportunity to say, how can I use a new technique in my organization? And then finally, be on the lookout for a new insight that you can gain based on some research that we're going to look at when it comes to coaching. So before we jump into coaching, we want to set the stage with why. So to do that, we're going to be a little interactive here. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit different of a session, but we're still going to be interactive. So you have two options. One is I am dropping a link down in the chat right now. Your other option is to pull out your cell phone. And you pull out your cell phone and you go to menti.com and then you type in that 8-digit code on the screen. We're going to get an idea on where we're at in our organizations. So look at that. You're going to have the ability to rank these on a 1 to 5 scale. Okay, so on a 1 to 5 scale, what would you say about these? And as you see, they are going to start floating here based on what people are putting in. Now, we will have an opportunity at the end of this call. We'll send out these results. So we'll send out these results. You'll also have an opportunity to see the slides, but we'll give everybody about another 20, 30 seconds or so. Again, there's a link down in the chat, or you can pop it up on your phone. I love it. So we're kind of hovering in that 3-ish range in terms of how strong we feel our coaching culture is, how well we feel like we're coaching, and how well we prepare people to coach. Nice. I'm seeing a couple more pop in. Okay. So looking at this, what this tells me is that we're not starting from zero. Okay. We're doing things well already. Coaching is something that we're all familiar with. We've probably been on both ends. So before we really jump into some of the specifics for coaching, we want to set the stage simply for why. Why is coaching so important? And for us, it really does start with employee engagement. So employee engagement's numbers. Okay, here's what we are typically looking at. Now, interesting thing to note, for the first year in almost a decade, okay, in 2021, there's some research for 2022, but probably won't see that still for a couple months. But for the first year in more than a decade, in 2021, the percentage of fully engaged workers dropped. Okay, it declined. Now we can all probably think of why, some of those reasons, what would be, but what they found is that only 34% of people are fully engaged. This is where we're talking about that discretionary effort. Those people who are staying with our organizations. 2021 brought the Great Resignation with it. And that probably was partly due to the fact that fully engaged numbers were declining. About 50% are partially engaged, meaning they come in, they work, they go home. They're not unhappy with what they're doing. They could be satisfied in their roles. We probably know a lot of these people and like a lot of these people. And then finally, we have these people who are actively disengaged. These are the ones that, right, they already have one foot out the door. They're constantly looking. We know that they're unhappy in their roles. Now, the reason that employee engagement is related to coaching is because of the drivers of employee engagement, okay? And thinking of what really causes or what drives employees to stay engaged. Now, what we do know when it comes to employee engagement, the number one driver of engagement is your relationship with your immediate manager. Okay, that is the number one key to keeping employees engaged. Now, how these drivers of employee engagement, okay, this idea of having a strong relationship with your immediate manager, belief in senior leadership, and pride in the organization, these were initially the first 3 that research found. The bottom 2 that you see, okay, the balance and then the strong work environment, those have actually been added within the last 2 years. But it's how these drivers make people feel. That really is the key to engagement. So it's those 4 emotions that we see right there in the middle of the screen: feeling valued, confident, empowered, and connected. When these things happen, they become more emotionally committed to our organizations. So it would only make sense that the best coaches in our organizations could be our managers. Well, why is that? So 1, let's just do a little brainstorming down in the chat. So let's all drop to the chat. Why do you think it is that the immediate manager could be the best coach in our organizations? If we think about maybe why it ties to engagement, why would immediate managers be the best coaches? Absolutely, Hank. Yeah, they're the ones who most immediately, they're connecting with these employees on a daily basis. Anna, they have the most opportunities. Chad says trust. Leah says they know your goals and observe you working. Yes. Kelly says they are the closest to the problem. Alyssa says they are your leader. They have regular contact. You spend more time. Oh, Jonathan, yes, we spend more time at work sometimes than we do at home. So our immediate manager, now, right, we're making some assumptions here. Those good immediate managers, yes, they have the ability to directly empower. Here's the thing, okay? These managers, yes, they get a front row seat in essence to these emotional drivers of engagement. Okay, they're seeing these on a day-to-day basis. The problem is that Gallup found that managers, okay, are reporting higher levels of stress and burnout than the people they manage. So this means there's probably roughly 130 million managers that are leading about 1.3 billion people. And these managers are struggling with mental health more than their teams are. So we're asking managers to do a lot. Okay, we're asking them to take this responsibility to stay connected. And they're not superheroes. It's hard to do it all. Although they do have some similarities to Spider-Man. Okay, I don't know if anyone's got little kids. Mine love Spider-Man. And one of my favorite quotes from Spider-Man is that with great power comes great responsibility. So leaders have a responsibility to develop and to coach their teams. But here's the thing. It's a responsibility that they're rarely prepared for. They're rarely prepared for it, and it's starting to show. My guess is that many of us here on this call are familiar with a term that's become very popular in the last 6 weeks or so: quiet quitting. So down at the bottom of your screen, you should have some reactions. If you have heard of quiet quitting, if you would just give us a green check. If you have not heard of quiet quitting, give us a red X. But give us either a green check or a red X. So I'm seeing a good amount of people who are familiar with the term quiet quitting. Oh, I love it. Some people are even dropping it in the chat. Perfect. Okay, would anyone be willing to share with us what is it? And if you are, just raise your hand. You can go to those same reactions and you can raise your hand. If you're in the chat, just pop off mute. Kelly raised her hand first. Kelly took this opportunity. Kelly, go ahead, pop off mute for us. From your perspective, what is quiet quitting?
Essentially doing the bare minimum at your job in order to not get fired. So you're basically doing the basic tasks that are required, but nothing more. So you fly under the radar. You're not supporting or engaging or going above and beyond what your job requires of you to do. So you're just doing that bare minimum to keep your salary and keep going. You're not usually engaged with your coworkers, with your leadership, anything like that. You just show up, get whatever it is done that needs to get done, and go home.
Absolutely. Yes. My guess is Kelly's done some research or she's read some articles on this. That's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about quiet quitting. Okay. You can find several different definitions of it if you look it up. But basically it's an approach to work where basically someone will say, I'm going to do my job, but I'm not doing anything else. I'm not going to go above and beyond. You want me to stay late? I'm not doing it. You want me to take on this little thing that's outside of my scope? I'm not doing it. Impacts of quiet quitting. Maybe some of us are experiencing some of this in our organizations. Let's drop back down into the chat. What would be the impact of that in your organization? If you started having people say, you know what, I'm going to do my job and that's it. I'm not going above and beyond. I'm not doing anything extra. What would be some impacts of quiet quitting? Again, maybe you're seeing some of these already. Yeah, John, absolutely. Low morale. I'm seeing a lot of low morale. Oh, Courtney's saying it rubs off on others. Courtney, would you mind popping off on mute and just tell me, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it can bring down morale and affects productivity, and people start witnessing, oh, they're doing that, they can get away with it. So they start to mimic their behavior.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, Lindsay, that's interesting. You're taking it from a client perspective. Lindsay, would you mind popping off? In what ways would a client suffer? How would it impact clients if we had employees who were quiet quitters?
Yeah, certainly. We've got a large group of client-facing individuals, and if we have that type of behavior, our clients will then go to others to assist. If the normal person wouldn't go above and beyond to service. So while it will impact coworkers, it also could impact external users as well.
Yeah. Oh, Jonathan's tying quiet quitting to this idea of burnout and low morale. Yeah, there's a lot of impacts, right? For our teams internally, there's a lot of impact for our customers, for our clients. And none of them are positive, right? None of these are good things. This is probably not something that we want in our organizations. And this is a term that has been popularized lately. I don't know if it's because it sounds cool, right? Quiet quitting. It's a nice buzzy catchphrase. In reality, this is nothing new. Okay, quiet quitting is not anything new. It's just something that people are starting to recognize. If we think back to just a couple slides, we talked about engaged, right? Fully engaged versus that partially engaged. Partially engaged, it's kind of that quiet quitting. Those are the people who show up. They're very friendly. They're nice. We like working with them, but they're not willing to go above and beyond. So quiet quitting is something that's happened for years. And a lot of the articles right now, a lot of the conversations people are having, it's blaming the employees, right? They're talking about great resignation. Oh, people are seeing other people leave and quit, and maybe they can't fully do that. So they're just quiet quitting. They're blaming these employees. HBR took a very different approach. Okay, HBR took a different perspective. Now, this is an article that HBR put out just last month on quiet quitting. So take a quick read through, it's just one quick snippet up there on the screen. And as you read through that, drop your reaction down into the chat. It could just be one word, it could be a sentence, it could be an insight. But as you read through this, what resonates with you? Because they're taking a different approach. So I'm not seeing anyone so far who says, no way, this doesn't make any sense. Courtney agrees, Melody agrees, Elizabeth says absolutely. Yeah, we are looking oftentimes at this idea of quiet quitting and saying, well, it's the employee's fault. And they're taking this different approach and saying, maybe it's not about the employee, maybe it really is about the manager. Okay, we know that manager is tied very closely to that employee's engagement. And so if they can do a better job of connecting, that person's going to be much more likely to be fully engaged or not do this, not quietly quit. Yeah, Lisa says it makes sense. It's hard when people are working remotely. Yes, we're having to change the way that we're interacting. Right? I know I've been with several people. I was with an organization just last month, and some of these people said, oh my gosh, we've been working together for 2 years, and this is the first time we've ever met. So we're having to do this differently. And think back to this idea of managers. We're throwing managers, but we're not preparing them for this. We're just saying, hey, good luck, go figure this out. They're struggling more than our employees, and we're saying, you're fine. You'll figure it out, and you have to deal with all this change. So companies obviously don't want this happening. This is not a good thing for organizations. But here's the other part. Employees don't want this either. Employees don't say, man, I wish that I could have a job where I just show up and do nothing else and don't really care. Employees don't want this either. So what this tells us is that coaching is good for both employees and employers. Okay, it's good on both ends. So we're going to start by just taking a look at some numbers. Okay, just some initial numbers when it comes to coaching. So there is a full 70% of the variance between highly engaged and disengaged is just the manager. That's how critical that management role is. Okay, second one, companies with a strong coaching culture actually report higher revenue. So there's a business case for coaching. Now, Kelly just dropped something in the chat that really does tie the culture to it. If we don't have that clear mission and values, if we don't create this strong culture, it's going to be really hard to do. So yes, tying culture to coaching and results, it's a three-way connection. And then finally, the last number that we will look at today is that employees are asking for this. Okay, most people are saying, I want more feedback. I want more coaching. We're just not always prepared to give that to them. So we said we're gonna look at two different types of coaching today, because we often use coaching with a very broad term. when in fact, there's different types. And so we're going to look at two today: skill coaching and clarity coaching. So when we think of skill coaching, okay, here's a couple of the things that we talk about or that we think of with skill coaching. It's a single skill, okay, topical, tactical skill. It's something that usually requires practice for people. There's a specific result that goes along with it. It's something we can typically measure. And the coach is someone who really knows what they're doing, or a subject matter expert for the skill. So let's start by just thinking of what are some of the skills that in your organization you coach towards. And maybe this is with someone you coach, maybe this is in a totally different department, but what are some of the key skills that you coach employees on, whether it's you coaching or you have other managers who are coaching? One thing that we are constantly working on, and I know a lot of sales teams are constantly focused on, is CRMs, right? Making sure people understand what to put in the CRM, when to put it in, how to put it in. That's a skill, something that people learn through practice, knowing where to go and where to add things. Cassie's talking a little bit about customer service. Yes. Cassie, what might be one skill in customer service that you all focus on?
Really just your phone conversations, how you're answering the phone, what you're saying to the customer when they're calling. I mean, it is a skill that people have to pick up and learn. It's not always the same across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you think it would be.
you might, but it's like there's a lot of gray. And sometimes, the skill coaching, those are the ones where we say that this can be a little more black and white. There's a right way to do this. Courtney just dropped in the chat talking about how to do audits, 1040s. Yeah, there's a right way to do those. There's some skill there that we want to coach people towards. Customer service, accounting practices, absolutely. So we all have the idea of skills and skills that we want to develop. Now, the second type of coaching that we're going to look at is clarity coaching. And so when we talk about clarity coaching, okay, clarity coaching typically focuses on goals and development. Okay, there's usually not a right or a wrong answer. The coach doesn't necessarily need to be a subject matter expert. There's a lot of questioning that happens here, and there's two-way dialogue. So skill coaching, right? You think of those very specific skills that we're focused on. Clarity coaching is oftentimes a little bigger picture, no necessary right answer. Clarity coaching is when you're sitting down with someone on your team and you're saying, hey, where do you want to be in a year? Right? I see a lot of potential in you. Whew. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer there. No, both of these have a purpose. There are times when we want to use skill coaching to help people learn new skills. And there's times when we have to have that clarity coaching. The clarity coaching is really what helps people to grow and to change and adapt. Now, this sounds pretty straightforward. Okay, it makes sense, right? Yes, I'm either teaching you how to do something, I'm coaching you towards a specific skill, or I'm helping you grow, I'm helping you maybe make big decisions that you're unsure of and coaching you through those. But it's not as easy as it sounds. Why is coaching so difficult? So we're going to do one more of those mentees. So I'm going to pop the other mentee up right here. And we're going to start thinking specifically, why is coaching so difficult? What are the challenges that we're facing? What makes coaching difficult? So again, I'm going to drop a link down in the chat. You can click that link. You can also just go straight to your phone. Go to mentee.com, you'll put in that code. And what are the challenges you've seen in coaching? What makes it difficult? Absolutely. Yes, you have a day job, right? You have a day job. Most of you, your title is not coach. You have other things to do. We might have too many people that were responsible for coaching. Some of us say, yes, that conflict avoidance, it's easier to just not say anything, right? I don't know, this is going to take a lot of my time, experience. Maybe we've had some bad experiences with coaching. Yes. Honest feedback involves difficult conversations. Most of us don't love to have difficult conversations. Too many chiefs. Yeah, do it this way. No, do it this way. No, do it this way. Lack of support from management. And just know, if you already put one in, you can throw another one in there if you see it. Like I said, we'll be able to send this out afterwards, so you'll be able to see this. So if you want something up there, put it in. We have little to no support from higher ups. We have non-receptive supervisees. Those coaches, maybe they're not receptive. It could come from both ends. That's why those managers have so much stress and burnout, because they really are sandwiched in between senior leaders and that front line. Ooh, somebody said, is it welcome? With a question mark. Absolutely. Employees that are not willing to learn, minimal follow-up materials. Yeah, sometimes it feels like, okay, I'm going to coach, but this is actually going to make my life harder, right? Because now I have more follow-up that I have to do. And I already didn't have enough time to get my stuff done before this. And now you're asking me to do even more. We are all dealing with challenges when it comes to coaching. Now, one thing that I saw up here a couple times is, right, maybe they don't want the coaching. Management doesn't support it. There's a great book by a guy named Peter Bregman. Okay, and Peter Bregman said this: people don't resist change, they resist being changed. Now think about this. This is probably very true. If I said, hey, I want you to take a different way home today. I want you to take a different way home today. I'll give you $100 for doing it. You'd say, okay, fine. People don't resist change. In fact, they often welcome change. What they resist is the idea of being changed. And when coaching is done poorly, it makes people resist. Think of coaching as like, you can do one of two things. Imagine if you had somebody's hand in front of you and you pushed on it. If you pushed on somebody's hand, they're going to immediately push back. Or if you extended a hand. If you extended a hand, someone will often reach back out towards you. We don't want to push on people. We want to extend the hand. That's what coaching is. People feel like this, like we're pushing on them often, because coaching stirs up one of the most powerful human emotions that there is. Anybody have a guess? What is one of the most powerful human emotions that poor coaching can stir up in people? If you've got a thought, drop it in the chat. We'll see if you're right. Just a quick quiz. Julie says fear, very close. Insecurity, confidence, anger. Chad says anger, he agrees. You have 5 more seconds if you want to throw a thought in there. We have a lot of votes for anger right now. Failure, shame. Okay, we do have somebody got it. Courtney and Anna, they both said it's shame. Yes, shame is one of the most powerful emotions that we can feel. Now, that's often stirred up with poor coaching because here's what happens. Okay, typical scenario. You have someone, they need help. They're struggling. And if we need help, or if we're struggling, then inherently we feel this sense of shame, because shame says, I'm not very good. Now, this is different than guilt. Okay, Brene Brown talks a lot about the difference between shame and guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad, right? I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. And so oftentimes when someone immediately says, boy, I need help, I'm struggling, it brings up shame. I'm not good. I can't do this. I'm not good. And so what happens when we feel this emotion is that our very brilliant, our very capable, and our very well-intentioned managers, they come in to save the day. And they say, here's how you solve your problem. Let me help you because I am so great at doing this. And then what happens is it actually just reinforces the shame. See, I'm not any good. I can't do that. You were the one, you had to do it for me. I couldn't do it. Shame is one of the feelings, one of the emotions that we will almost do anything not to feel. So the easiest way to get rid of shame, okay, because we say, I don't want to feel this. I want to avoid this feeling. The easiest way to get rid of it at least in the short term, is denial. We just deny it. So if we just deny the source of it, meaning that we have a problem, guess what? No shame. Because if I don't have a problem, then I'm not bad. So it gets into this cycle of I'm not good. My manager comes in, saves the day. I see I'm not any good. I don't like that feeling. So you know what? No, there's no problem. Everything's great. Everything's good. This is the biggest pitfall of coaching right here. What happens is, and I know I've had conversations with several people on this call. They say, you know what? Why do we promote people? Drop down in the chat. Why do we often promote people? Absolutely, Leah. Yes, they're good at what they do. They do their job well. They're a subject matter expert. That's why we promote someone. Now, we promote people because they're good doers. They're strong individual contributors, like Susie said. But here's the thing. Good coaches are not just good doers. We just said the immediate manager is the number one driver of engagement. And what we just said is we're promoting people to managers because they're good doers. Okay, a doer and a coach is not the same thing. In fact, when these, again, well-intentioned managers, because they don't know any different, when they just tell people how to do things, which is exactly what they know how to do best, right? That's what they're the best at. So that's what they go to. That's the easiest thing for them to do is let me tell you how to solve your problem. When they do that, it evokes shame and it evokes resistance. So we have to take a new approach to coaching. Absolutely, Chrissy. Yes, leaders and managers are two very different things, right? We know the manager, that's the task-driven, do this. The leader is like, follow me, come with me, let me come with you. We often promote people and then we're like, gosh, but they were really good and they're telling everybody what to do. It's because it goes back to this shame and it reinforces shame. So there's a lot of areas that we're seeing people coach in, that people are really focused on having coaching conversations. Some of the most popular that our clients are using and that research is saying that people are focused on is right up here on the screen. So we're going to get interactive again. If you go up to the top of your screen, you're going to see a button that says view options. If you click on view options, then you're going to see something that says annotate. Okay, if you click annotate, a little toolbar is going to pop up. And one of the things you'll see on that toolbar is a stamp. Okay, you're going to open up that toolbar, open up annotate, and open up stamp. Then as you look through this list for your organization, what are the two that you would say we do this most frequently? Here would be kind of what I would say is our top two areas where we're really focused on coaching. Now, if you say we have one that's not up there, that's okay, drop it down in the chat. Okay, you can always drop it down into the chat. But what would you say are the two for you that you're really focused on or that your organization does most often? So it looks like I'm seeing a lot on performance, a lot on goal setting, overworked or overwhelmed is trying to make a quick comeback here. I would say performance and goal setting though are what we're seeing most often. Again, that doesn't mean we're not doing these other areas, and it doesn't mean we're not doing them well at all. We said at the very beginning, our averages were right about a 3. So we're doing some of these well. I love it. Anna says, we're not doing time management. Yeah, no time management. Nobody put that one up there as one of their top 2. Yeah, performance and goal setting seem to kind of be taking the cake here. And maybe we should be, right? Yes, time management, self-accountability might impact some of those other areas. We know, right? Time is the one resource that we can't make any more of. Okay, so we're all having similar conversations, and it sounds like goal setting, performance are some of the biggest areas that a lot of us here on this call are focused on. So before we look at a process that we can use to coach, we're just going to look at 4 key best practices, some research-based best practices that we can use when it comes to coaching. So the first one that we are going to talk about today is listening. Good coaches are good listeners. In fact, okay, coaches have the ability to control the conversation by the way they listen and the questions that they ask. Control in coaching does not come from talking. And when we listen, we have to listen not just for the words, okay? Because when somebody says, yeah, everything's fine today. If we're only listening to the words, we're not picking up on those subtle messages that are being sent. Chrissy says, listening to hear you versus listening to respond. Yes, I usually will just say, are you listening to understand or are you listening to respond right now? Okay, as coaches, we want to spend a lot of time listening to understand. Coaches should spend more time listening. Now, again, think this is a paradigm shift for a lot of leaders and managers because I was promoted because I was really good at this. So surely you want me, when I'm talking to other people, you want me to tell them how I do this. You want me to tell them how I would solve this problem. And in reality, that's not what coaching is. That's just called give me advice. Okay, we're talking about coaching, which is a different level. So listening is one. The second research-based tip that we want to focus on when we're coaching is to stay neutral. So we just said coaching is not about giving advice. It's not about saying, do this, don't do that. Good coaching assumes that you already have the answer. You've got whatever you need in you already. My job is to just help you bring it out. And so as soon as I say, Cassie, I would not do that. I would not do that. Well, now I'm not a coach anymore. Now I'm like the person above you just telling you what to do. Good coaches really do stay neutral. They want to just look at options. Yeah, you could do this. What might happen if you do that? Okay. Well, what would be another choice? You could do this. Yeah, what would happen there? Good coaches stay neutral. As soon as we have that face of do this or don't do that, we immediately take the playing field from being level to being, I know better than you. I know better than you. And when we start saying, I know better than you do, we reinforce shame. So a coach's job is to stay neutral. The third thing that we want to focus on is genuine curiosity. Coaching is not about you. Coaching is not about you looking good. Coaching is not about you solving someone's problems, right? We said you're not a superhero. Your employees don't want you to be the superheroes either. They want to be the superhero. And so if you come in and save the day, well, let me tell you we have to be curious about them. It doesn't matter sometimes in coaching what you think, or it doesn't matter what you would have done. We want to stay focused on the other person when we're coaching. We have a tendency to make connections. How does this connect to me? Oh, this is what I would have done. Here's what I think. Instead, when we're coaching, think of curiosity. So in coaching, we want curiosity versus connecting things to ourselves. And the last one, the final one, is action. Okay, action is key when it comes to coaching. We say all the time at Dale Carnegie that knowledge isn't power until it's applied. Coaching is the same way. We're coaching to drive change. We're coaching to change the way we think or to change the way that we're acting in certain situations. They say that clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So whenever we're coaching, we have to have very clear actions for people to follow. Oh, love it. Someone's already going where we're about to be stamping here. So in taking a look at these best practices, think of the one that you say, you know what? I feel like this is one that or maybe if you say, I don't do a lot of coaching, but in my organization we do, which is the one you would say is the strongest for you? If you had to pick one, which one would be the strongest for you? Maybe you say, we do this really well. For Cassie, it's listening. Lana, stay neutral. That is a hard one to do sometimes, especially when we feel like, I know it. I have the answer. I wish I could just tell you what to do. We have a lot of the genuinely curious. Yes. Listening, that's another popular one. Action is key. That one's tough, maybe for some of us. Okay, so now we're going to flip it. This is what we feel like is our biggest strength. Now we're going to stamp which one of these would you say we have the greatest opportunity? It doesn't mean you're not doing it at all, but which one of these would you say is your greatest opportunity? Interesting. We don't, that listening was one of the biggest strengths, and we're also seeing it as the largest opportunity. Sometimes the biggest strength is the opportunity. Neutral is a hard one. Okay, now maybe I know there's a lot of us on here who are in HR or we're in very senior leadership roles. And so maybe we've had some more exposure to this. Stay neutral is probably the hardest one for our frontline managers and even some of our mid-level managers, because they say, but I know how to solve this problem. And if we think back to some of those challenges we talked about, you know what? It's a lot faster if I just say, do this, versus having to ask you those questions and help you find the answer on your own. We think often short-term instead of long-term from a management standpoint. So yes, stay neutral sounds like might be our, well, I don't know, they're pretty close. I like whoever put them directly on the eyes and the nose. They're very, very clever here. So we've got these 4 key different ideas, these 4 best practices. So now we're going to look at an actual process that we can use, a coaching process we can use to help people want to change versus that idea of resisting, right? In fact, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. So we're going to look at a process we can use to help with that. So this is going to be a 6-step process that we're going to focus on here. Again, you will have an opportunity to get these slides after the session today. So feel free to jot down some notes, but just know we'll be able to send this out for you as well. So the first thing that we want to do is we need to be seen as an ally and not as a critic. Okay, this ties back to that idea that we talked about earlier of shame. It also connects directly to trust. Okay, if I feel like you're on the same page as me, if I feel like I can trust you, then I'm more willing to let you coach me. I'm more willing to say, maybe I will try something different. If you've ever done any research on high-performing teams, Google came out with Project Aristotle. And what Project Aristotle found is that the #1 trait of a high-performing team is psychological safety or trust. When we think of team, okay, team could be a whole group, but think you and your immediate manager are on a team together. And the #1 trait of that high-performing team, high-performing relationship is trust. So we have to make these coaches, these supervisees, whatever you call them, your team members, we have to make them feel trusted. It has to be a trusting relationship, because without trust, there is no relationship. There is no coaching. Skipping this step and just telling managers, hey, just use this process for coaching doesn't work. Because they can use the process that you could give them the best frameworks all day long. But if their employees still say, you're trying to fix me, I'm obviously not very good, you just keep telling me what to do differently, they're never going to listen. If we do anything well at Dale Carnegie, and we do a lot, it's this. It's helping people build these genuine, trusting relationships so that they're going to let us coach. We can have more success. So from here, step 2 is we want to shift to the future. We want to focus on what we do want, okay, versus on what we don't. There is some research that shows focusing on both can be powerful, okay? And here's what I mean by that. Focusing on what we don't want, right? Well, I don't want, if you're coaching somebody and somebody says, well, Tommy's on my team and like, he's just so hard to work with, nobody likes him. Okay, yes, that's what you don't want. What do you want? Well, what I really want is a team that loves each other. I don't know, maybe you use that word at work, maybe you don't, right? I want a team that collaborates well together. We really want to focus on what's the thing you do want. Coaching oftentimes turns into complaining, right? This is hard. I don't like this. This doesn't work. Instead of focusing on what we don't want, think about what you do. Okay. And getting people to shift that mindset from just talking about, oh, okay, well, let's talk about how you can deal with Tommy and his terrible behavior. Instead of coaching there, saying, okay, what I heard you say is that you want this team that collaborates really well together. Let's talk about what that looks like. We shift the conversation from the negative, what we don't want, to the positive of what we do want. Okay, this is a hard shift to get people to make, because oftentimes they come to us with the problems and it takes a skilled coach to be able to shift that conversation. So from there, once we know that positive outcome, that exciting, that engaging, that energizing outcome, Then we want to get clear on where we're at right now. As coaches, we have to meet people where they are. Right now, what's working? What's not working? What are you doing? What are you not doing? What are they doing? What are they not doing? We want to get really crystal clear about where we're at today. So we got to know where we're going, but then we also have to know where we're at right now. Now, once we have both of those pieces, we can move on to step 4. And the step 4 is to explore our options forward. There's 2 key words here. One is explore. The second is options with an S. This is not saying do this. Here's your option. Go do this. When we put those options together, we have to remember they're just that. They're options. This is where we stay neutral, because the second, okay, if I'm working with, I'm working with Cody, and Cody says, oh, well, here's one thing I was thinking I could try. And I immediately say, oh no, Cody, that's not going to work. I basically just told him, you don't know what you're doing. I do. Let me tell you. So we have to stay neutral when we're looking at options. Questioning becomes really critical here. Listening becomes really critical here. This is not problem solving. This is not, oh, this is not going to work and here's why, or this is why that's the best option and why. This is simply discussing what might be a path forward. Notice I didn't say the path forward. I said a path forward. There's no judgment when we're exploring options. Ideally, we want to come up with at least 3. What are 3 different ways you could handle this, right? What are 3 different options that you have? And I'm not going to judge whichever one you decide to do, because after we explore those options, that's where we go. We then say, okay, now let's create a plan of action. Now we've looked at multiple options. We've talked through maybe what could happen here, what could happen here. Now we select the one that we want to try first. The one we want to try first. It might work. It might not. But we're going to say, hey, what should we try? And then we put together the really clear plan. Okay, this is what we're going to do. You've got their buy-in now the whole way, because it's going to help you get here from where you're at. And I know this is the option that you've selected, not what I've told you to do. So you put together that plan. And then step 6 is the most forgotten step. Step number 6 is that we have to follow up, reinforce, encourage, and support. Not just one of those things, but all of those things. Okay, we have to think of coaching not as a one-time event. It's not something you do once a year with a checklist and you write 4s for everything. That's not what coaching is. We're consistently following up. We're reinforcing when we see the actions that they said they were going to commit to. We're encouraging them to do those hard things, and we're supporting them when they need it. So this formula, it really does work to create long-lasting transformation if we're doing this consistently, intentionally, and proactively. How do we know this? Well, because when it's done well, it addresses something that we refer to at Dale Carnegie as the transformation model. Okay, we use this model internally when we're coaching, and this is a great thing that we can be doing in our organizations as well. So if you steal a little bit from Stephen Covey, he says, begin with the end in mind, right? We actually just talked about that here. One of the very first steps, step number 2, after we're seen as an ally, is to say, what's the positive future? Where do you want to be? Okay, that's exactly where we want to start too. What is it that you want to get? Now, we know that in order for us to get something different, there's 2 things that go into it: behavior change and emotional change. What makes coaching a little bit different is that it's easy to focus on the behaviors and what you have to do, but it's the emotional change that makes something sustainable. So if you're coaching someone to have one-on-one conversations or to have difficult conversations, you can tell them what to do all day long. But if we can't get them to see that they have the confidence to do it, they're not going to do it long-term. So all 3 of these steps are linked together for long-term transformation. As coaches, we have to know what they want to get, and then we have to help identify what behaviors do we need to change and what's the emotional change that needs to happen. Now, this transformation only happens, okay, when the coach and the coachee, the person that they're coaching, have the space and the capacity to explore these. It is something that takes time. and happens typically over multiple connections, over multiple experiences, right? We said coaching is not a one-time event. In order for us to see ourselves differently, we need that encouragement. We need that support. Coaching is not all about the negative, right? We have to focus on what are they doing really well and give them praise, give them props, give them recognition and appreciation for those things. So just like in coaching, one of the things we said is that we listen, we let them process, we stay neutral. We're going to do that same thing here today. So what you need now is an actual pen and an actual piece of paper. And if you say, no, Liz, I am way too cool for that because it's 2022, then I don't care, type it on the computer or something, but you're going to have 2 minutes. We're going to take 2 minutes to do some reflecting. I like a good old pen and paper. Okay, they say ink makes you think. So we're going to do a little reflecting. Once you've got either a pen and paper or you've got a Word doc out or something, just give us a green check just so we know you're ready. Perfect. All right, so here's the way this is going to work. Also, I know sometimes the annotating is confusing. If you're still on your annotate screen and you want to get off of it, on your annotate toolbar, there's a little red X to the far right. You can click that and it'll take you off. Perfect. Okay, I see lots of green checks. That tells me we're ready. So we're going to take 2 minutes. We're going to take 2 minutes to just reflect. I am going to shut my mouth for 2 whole minutes. Now, there are 5 different questions up here. You will not have time to answer all 5 of these questions. You get to choose which one resonates with you, which one jumps out at you. But we're just going to spend 2 minutes to start to crystallize some of our thinking and some of the insights that we might have gotten by being here today. So up here on the screen, you will see 5 different questions. I am going to set a timer for 2 minutes. And for 2 minutes, our challenge is just to write. Write what resonates, write what jumps out, write whatever comes to your head. I'm going to set the clock for 2 minutes. I will go silent. If you need anything, you can drop down into the chat and we'll see everybody in 2 minutes. Got 1 more minute. Even if you think you're done, just keep writing. Thoughts will come. All right, so go ahead, start to finish up that thought wherever you are at. And they say that typically after a virtual presentation, you will remember about 10%. of that content, right? 10% of that information. Maybe you just jotted down some things that will help with that, but your task now is to go into the chat. What for you is the 10%? Maybe it was just a quick nugget, one of the different ideas or the tips, but what is your 10%? What is it that as you've just sat there and reflected, you thought, I think this is what I'm taking away from this. This is the thing that really resonated or really jumped out to me. Could just be a word or a phrase, but what is your 10% today? As you sat there and reflected. Yep, neutral. Yeah, advice and coaching are not the same. Shame and coaching, good. I'm glad that resonated. Yeah, it's a different take, maybe on coaching than you've seen before. Being an ally versus a critic. Neutral, yes, the idea of staying neutral. Again, one of the hardest things to do because we're so good at so many things and we just want to tell you how to solve your problems. Yeah. Clarity coaching does not have to be a subject matter expert. Correct. They just have to be really good at coaching, right? Asking the right questions, providing the right guidance. The picture of the manager saving the day rather than coaching the employee. But it's true, right? We as managers get so excited when somebody brings us a problem and it's like, I know that one, let me help. And we jump in and save the day, right? Rather than let them be the hero. Absolutely. Okay, so based on your reflection, based on some of this, you might want to talk more. You might want to hear more. You might have some questions. I told you that I would share the slides with you today. So if that is something you are interested in, you are going to want to either pull out your cell phone, pop open that quick QR code, or you can drop into the chat. I just put a link in the chat. 2 questions. Okay, we just need your name because you've told us you want the slides. So we're going to need to know who to send those to. And then there's several different options there. Okay, you can select as many as you want. You want the slides? Do you want us to talk to your organization about this? I also put on there because I started with the Ninja Gym. If you want to go to the Ninja Gym with me, let me know. I'm happy to hit you up and bring friends. I brought a friend yesterday who works in an accounting firm here in town in St. Louis. So let me know if you want to go to the Ninja Gym, pick whatever you want. And then we've got 2 open questions. One, what are some other topics you want to hear about? We're going to continue to host some value-added executive briefings like this. So what do you want to hear about? And then what else do you want us to know? So feel free, you can do that now. You can do that at the end. We are going to take about just a minute. We'll maybe do 1 or 2 questions. So who has the first question for us? You can pop yourself right off mute, or you can drop it in the chat. Who has a question? So one of the things that we are often asked is, who are the right coaches then? Like, how do you identify who your coaches should be? And I often go back to your immediate managers. They do have the biggest impact. One thing that you can also look at is having some people who are dedicated coaches. We work with a lot of companies, they'll have mentoring programs or coaching programs. However, I will preface this with, if you do not train your coaches, if they don't have the skills to be able to coach and to do it well, then all you're doing is telling your employees, coaching is not helpful, it's not a good thing, pretend you don't have any problems so you don't have to go talk to them because it's really not that great. So make sure whoever it is that you're giving them the tools to do so. We'll do 1 more. Kelly Martin, what do you got?
Sorry, I'm doing it this way because I don't know how to say it the right way. In one of your guys' presentations, you talk about the quadrants where you work, and I'm not remembering the name right now. Eisenhower quadrant matrix. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Irony of
but
the
keep-
urgent, by chance?
Yes, time. Yeah, like so.
Oh, yeah.
Things that are important, not important, whatever.
Yes.
And so often, people are working in that not urgent, not or
Urgent, not important.
So they're doing all these tasks, right? Which doesn't leave us time to do this coaching. So one of the biggest things that I always have a question on is, how do you move people? Because that's going to be their number 1 excuse as to why they don't do more coaching for the most part, is they don't have the time. I mean, that was relevant in what we saw. Is there one basic step you say, like, how do we move from this this task focus thing to up here where we're working on things that are important but not urgent, as in coaching, right? It's not urgent, but it's extremely important.
Mhm. Yeah. So one thought is if you want someone to change their beliefs, I don't have time to do this. You have to give them a new experience. And so oftentimes it's giving them an experience with a really good coach that then makes them say, oh, I actually got way more done and I got way more out of that. But you've got to give them a new experience. And so giving people an experience with a really good coach is the best way to shift people's thinking to say, actually, that was valuable. But when we just keep giving them more of the same, it doesn't help. Okay, it is 1:01. So we will get out of here today. End with a quote from Bill Belichick, one of, they say, the greatest coaches of all time. He says, good players cannot overcome bad coaching. It's critical to the engagement of our teams that we coach and that we coach well. Thank you all for being here on this call today. We cannot wait to bring you some more content next quarter, and hopefully we will connect with some of you before then as well. So have a great rest of your day, everybody.